I can eat some candy. Nigga, this shit ain't healthy. Nigga, hold your text on.
Time to pay some bills, man. Time to pay some motherfucking bills, man. In Cash Nasty was. But yeah, we got Disturban. I don't think I ever react to him. I probably did. I probably forgot. But I did 1,000 videos. I don't remember. I probably got 2 more videos for coming for y'all today. So y'all be on the lookout. That being said, let's go ahead and this video is short too.
This United Kingdom on the 13th of March 2018. Susan Lynch was a 48-year-old woman who lived in Essex. Susan was married to a man named Kieran Lynch, and the couple had 2 children together. The couple met when Susan was 18 and Kieran 21. One criteria Susan particularly wanted from a man was for him to get along with her mother. She wanted her mother to approve of whoever she would settle down with, and for her partner to be close with her mother too, and Kieran fit that bill. They quickly fell in love and married not long after. They had 2 children together, and Susan's mother Jennifer was a big part of the family's life. Jennifer would often come over to Susan and Kieran's home to see them and to spend some quality time with her grandchildren, who she adored. The family would later remark that Kieran had somewhat of a special relationship with his mother-in-law. They got along incredibly well, and by all accounts, Kieran seemed to care for her a great deal. At the beginning of the relationship, Kieran was seen as the perfect husband and a loving father. But as more time passed, Susan began to notice that he had quite the temper. He was also incredibly controlling. He had the capability of being the perfect husband, but she described him as a Jekyll and Hyde character who could change quickly. This would often happen when he consumed alcohol. After a few drinks, Kieran would change, something that seems all too common in true crime cases. When Kieran would lose his cool, he would throw objects around the house or smash items. Pretty soon, Kieran moved on from smashing objects in the home and began putting his hands on Susan. He would poke and prod her chest if he was frustrated or angry, and this was some.
I hate the Mr. Violent cases. I ain't gonna count. I feel, man.
That Susan overlooked. But then it turned into pushing her, and then pushing her harder, and then putting his hands around her neck. After calming down, Kieran would often apologize for his actions, and Susan would forgive him. Susan would keep this side of Kieran a secret from her mother, and never contacted the police. After lashing out, Kieran would make excuses for his behavior, and would never take accountability for what he had done. One day, Susan was checking the mail when she came across a letter from the bank. She opened the letter, only to find that the credit account she shared with her husband was in debt. Kieran had been using the credit card to withdraw £3,000 in cash. Those close to Kieran would soon notice some changes in his physical appearance. He began losing weight, appeared to be gaunt in the face, and became more pale. And the reason for these things would soon come to light. On one afternoon, Susan picked up a pair of Kieran's trousers, and out fell a bag of white powder. Kieran had been taking this substance behind Susan's back. She was outraged and felt betrayed by his actions. Kieran tried his best to apologize, but the damage had already been done, and the tension between the couple began to fester. It came to a breaking point when the couple were home alone one night. The two began to argue, and Kieran, in a fit of rage, retrieved a knife from the kitchen. He put...
Oh man, really?
Hey guys, did you know it's so easy for anyone to get a car now? So there's a website that helps people...
the knife to Susan's throat and began to threaten her. For some time, he held the knife to her throat and told her that he would kill her and take his own life too. But he didn't go through with it. Kieran eventually calmed down and dropped the knife. After this terrifying incident, Susan told Kieran that he needed to leave the home and that she wanted a divorce. So in 2017, Kieran moved out and into his parents' house. Susan then told her mother about everything, detailing Kieran's abusive and erratic behaviour. Things did seem to settle down after this incident, and Susan was able to meet a new man who treated her with far more respect. Eventually, Susan realised that the divorce needed to be finalised so she could move on with her new partner. She did the right thing and asked Kieran to meet her in a public place so they could discuss the matter, which is something you should always do after a breakup. The two met up at a restaurant, and Susan discussed with Kieran that she had met someone else and that she wanted to move forwards with him, and that because of this, the divorce would need to be official and finalised. Kieran was civil. He told Susan that he was happy that she had met someone else and that he would help with the divorce proceedings. Susan was relieved and was now feeling positive about her future. But as mentioned earlier, Kieran was known to be volatile. It didn't take long for him to change his tune. He began making threats towards Susan. He was no longer happy for her. He was furious that she had found someone else and told her that he would rather have her killed than allow another man to live in the house that she once lived.
Damn.
Kieran would repeatedly tell Susan that he wanted her dead, which of course frightened her a great deal. She already knew that he was more than capable of violence and had a tendency to lash out. And soon enough he did. Kieran went around to Susan's home with a sledgehammer and began smashing ornaments in the garden, telling her that he wanted to kill her. The police were called. Kieran was arrested and charged with criminal damage. He was told by the police that he was not allowed to come within a certain distance of Susan or her property. Susan tried her best to highlight to the police that Kieran was a real, credible threat to her and her family, and that further precautions should be taken. But the police told her that there was little they could do, as he had only destroyed property.
It's always look at the
The best they
motherfucker do.
could do was a restraining order. Kieran was released on bail, but shortly after being released, he made a call to the emergency services. He explained to them that he was going through a divorce and that it was going horribly. He then informed the operator that he had just tried to take his own life, but he couldn't go through with it. Because of this, a mental health team was sent out to evaluate Kieran. The mental health team ruled that Kieran was of a sound mind after he reassured them that he was feeling better and that the call was just a moment of weakness. After this traumatic event, Kieran continued to harass Susan. He would call and text her with all...
Don't call no 911. No, what you know saying you gonna kill yourself. I mean, if you really, you feel me? I did it, and well, I did it at school type shit, but I was playing though. Man, them folks sent my ass to the hospital that same day now. Sent my ass to the office first, then sent my ass to the hospital. Man, they sent me in the goddamn nut house for about 5-6 days. I got out on Christmas Day, and I got on Christmas Day. What just had came out? Grand Theft Auto just had came out. Grand Theft Auto, the last Grand Theft Auto 5 just had came out. That's how long that been. That's how long that been.
He even sent her
I was just playing.
license plates to her in some kind of ominous threat.
You don't play like
Susan
that.
contacted the police and told
I was
them
young
about the
and
repeated
dumb.
harassment. Kieran was told by the police that he could no longer contact Susan anymore, or he would be arrested. But Kieran wasn't arrested, and so he continued to harass Susan and make multiple threats. On one occasion, Susan's boyfriend was staying over, but he was home alone at the time.
Oh, fuck.
He heard a noise outside, so he peeked out of the upstairs bedroom window and saw a man walking towards the home and out of sight. Then all of a sudden, the lights went out. Susan's boyfriend then watched as this man reappeared, got into a car and left. The man was of course Kieran, and he had cut the power cables to the house. This incident was reported to the police. This time the police did respond, and they went looking for him, but Kieran had vanished. But despite Kieran vanishing, he still continued to call Susan multiple times a day, and would even call in the middle of the night over and over again. One day, Kieran called the landline and his daughter picked up the phone. She spoke with her father briefly and told him that the police were looking for him. Kieran then began threatening his own daughter, telling her that if he ever saw her, he would beat her up. Susan's mother, Jennifer, was also a victim of the harassment from Kieran. He would call her at night time and just breathe down the phone. Jennifer was terrified, as Kieran would wait until she turned off her lights. The second she turned off her lights to go to bed, the phone would ring and she would hear breathing down the other end. The police reassured Susan that if Kieran reappeared, he would be arrested. But she pleaded with them to do more, as she believed Kieran was seriously mentally unstable, and she believed that he would do something terrible. The police were called over and over again, but Kieran was never located or arrested. And now we arrived to the 13th of March, 2018. Susan's mother Jennifer had been struggling a great deal with Kieran's harassment. She was so scared of him that she would often sleep in her bathroom so she could lock the door and feel safe. So, on this day, Susan went round to see her mother to make sure she was okay. The two conversed for some time, and at some point, Jennifer went outside whilst Susan stayed inside and made a phone call. But she could still see her mother in the garden through the window. All of a sudden, Kieran appeared. In a split second, he doused Jennifer with petrol and set her alight. Susan watched in horror as her mother was burning alive in front of her. Kieran then quickly set himself alight and was engulfed in flames. Susan quickly called the emergency services. The ambulance arrived on the scene and the two were taken to hospital as they were both still alive. Jennifer had suffered 33% burns to her body, mainly to her head, chest and shoulders. She had also inhaled a large amount of smoke, causing some damage to her lungs. Kieran had suffered burns to 97% of his...
Why do I care so much what people think about me? I think I'm gay.
body and was in a horrific state. Later that night,
know.
Kieran passed away from his injuries, aged 50.
I don't know what that was.
The doctors did everything they could to save Jennifer, but 17 days after the horrific attack, she too passed away, aged 72. It's reported that she was surrounded by her family at the time of her death. Only a couple of years before, her husband had passed away, and she had told Susan that she wanted and was ready to be with her husband. After the tragic death, the police looked at Kieran's internet search history. They found that he had been researching murders and the most flammable liquids. Kieran had planned all of this. An inquest was launched as it became clear that the police had failed to take appropriate action to prevent this from happening. The review into the crime slammed the police for allowing Kieran to slip through the net. They also found that there was an absence of proactive responses to breaches of his bail conditions and a lack of understanding of which the officers should be responsible for. Just over 2 years after the killing, the report found that Kieran's pattern of behavior amounted to stalking, and that this should have been identified by the police and pursued. Their failure to act likely caused Jennifer's death. The Essex Police Force have apologised for their failings and are also reviewing their training around domestic violence cases. The couple's daughter, Molly, told the media that the police had ignored their calls. She added, "It was almost like nothing was going to be done until he did something to someone or himself." When speaking about that horrific day, Susan said, "Watching my mum get burned alive by my ex-husband and being helpless to intervene was exceptionally disturbing. She didn't deserve such a painful and traumatic death. She still had lots of years to live and plenty of love to give to her grandchildren. My poor girls have got to live with this forever. Thankfully."
Yeah, R.I.P. man. If you want to toss a dangerous relationship, man, leave. It ain't worth it. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I got 2 more videos for y'all. Y'all know that they Tuesday. I'm on doing this shit because YouTube shit that came, man. Y'all don't do videos on Tuesday. Y'all already know that. It's just when I got that notification, then it hit different. It really do hit different. I said, why not give a bite and just give y'all 3 videos? On top of the 5K, we finna got down. I'm finna be at 5K, so make sure y'all give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe. We almost at 5K. Giveaway at 5K, man. Let's ride. See y'all motherfuckers on the next video.